It is October 6th, 1927. Warner Brothers Studios has just released The Jazz Singer, the world's first talking motion picture. After the premiere, there was massive critical acclaim. Undoubtedly the best thing Vitaphone has ever put on the screen. Variety Magazine, October 12th, 1927.
In 1895, the Lumiere brothers, Louis and Auguste, patented the cinematograph, the first known video camera. The cinematograph was a multi-purpose device. It could film movies and project them as well. In 1894, the Lumiere brothers shot their first film using the cinematograph, workers leaving the Lumiere factory.
Thomas Edison patented the kinetoscope in March of 1893. It consisted of a phonograph with ear tubes attached and an early video projector. This was the beginning of the talkies. In 1919, Hans Vogt, Joseph Engel, and Joseph Masserol patented their invention, the tri-ergon system. The main function of the tri-ergon system was to electronically record sound on either film strips or steel wires. This system was revolutionary for many reasons. In all of the previous attempts before the tri-ergon system, playback had been one of the major problems. The tri-ergon system had a way to fix this. One of the most innovative parts of the system was a flywheel to help regulate playback. As sound and light travel at different speeds, it was necessary to regulate the playback speed so that the mouth movement matched up with the words. In 1929, William Fox purchased the rights to the tri-ergon system and later developed it into the Fox Movietone system. The sound-on-disc system's name tells all. It combined the Edison phonograph and a film camera. Sound would be recorded on a wax disc while a camera filmed. The disc-cutting machine was locked in strict synchronization with the camera. To project the movies made with the sound-on-disc system, one would use a normal projector with small modifications. The other method of combining film and sound was known as the sound-on-film method. Instead of discs, the sound-on-film cameras would photographically record sound on individual film strips.
Warner Brothers Studios was founded by four brothers, Harry, Albert, Sam, and Jack. They started out as a small independent Hollywood company with Harry Warner as CEO.
In an environment like the film industry, where large companies competed with each other and shut out smaller companies, it was obvious that Warner Brothers, a failing studio, needed a way to up profits. This is where sound came in.
Warner Brothers was an amazingly aggressive studio. They had come along a little bit later than some of the other big studios, specifically Paramount. And so they were playing a bit of catch-up in this whole game for, trying to acquire market share, getting their movies out to the theaters. So they were sort of better positioned probably to take the chance, and synchronized sound was an enormous chance that they were taking.
But in order for Warner Brothers to fully make the transition to sound, they needed money. In 1924, Harry Warner began meeting with Waddell Catchings, a banker from Goldman Sachs investment firm. Catchings was able to invest $3 million in revolving credit and secure $4 million in loans to finance Warner Brothers' transition to sound. In April of 1925, Sam Warner, co-head of Warner Brothers, started meeting secretly with Nathan Levinson, a representative of Western Electric Company. Western Electric had been developing a system for combining film and sound. Unfortunately, Harry Warner was notorious for his extreme dislike of the talking motion pictures. But after going to the presentation on sound film, he decided that the future of the movies was in recorded synchronized music, not recorded dialogue. He even went as far as to say famously, "Who the hell wants to hear actors talk?" In late 1925, Warner Brothers struck up a deal with Western Electric and formed Vitaphone, which was entirely devoted to the production of the talkies. Shortly afterwards, Warner Brothers, in conjunction with Western Electric, released Don Juan, the first feature-length movie with a recorded synchronized soundtrack.
I think they realized that if it did ever catch on, it would be enormously expensive for the industry.
But once Warner Brothers put out The Jazz Singer, the other companies saw the massive revenue, and despite their earlier complaints, renovated their studios and hired new actors. This was just one act out of the many that the innovation of sound in motion pictures forced upon Hollywood.
From the start of the talkies, the revenues of films with sound have been huge. The Jazz Singer cost $500,000 to make, with equipment cost of $10,000, but it made $2 million. Warner Brothers was not the only studio to make talkies, though. Paramount produced Interference, their first all-talking film, and saw a $7 million increase in their profits.
Starting in the late 1920s, the Great Depression left many Americans struggling to make ends meet. Although the Great Depression was bad for the stock market and overall economy, the entertainment industry had its big boom. 60 to 70 million Americans still packed into theaters each week to see the talkies. Although 25% of the country was still unemployed, people were spending a hard-earned 15 cents on the movie theater. At the time of the Depression, the entertainment industry was more successful than industries of necessary items such as food, water, and shelter. Movies were an event that took people to another world, where they could forget about their worries and forget about reality.
And if you look at American film in the 1930s, the Depression scarcely exists. You won't find it.
Before the movies included voice, acting was more about getting the point across than trying to make it look good. The actors would make their actions bigger than they had to be in order to express emotions without their voices. They were helped by the musicians who would play along to the movies in the theater. But with the invention of the tri-ergon system and others like it, the musicians were no longer needed. Between 1928 and 1930, it is estimated that some 10,000 musicians lost their jobs.
Many opposed the rise of the talkies, including James Quirk, editor of the magazine Photoplay. He stated that the talking picture will be made practical, but it will never supersede the motion picture without sound. But the public loved hearing dialogue in movies, and so studios produced more and more talkies.
Previously famous actors such as Vilma Bankley, Mary Pickford, and Douglas Fairbanks lost their jobs because either their voices were unpleasant or they couldn't adjust to the new style of acting. Here are first-hand accounts of actors who were affected by the talkies.
First, I was concerned because I had been sending all my money home to my parents, just keeping enough to live on. Second, although I had been trying hard, I could hardly speak English. The requirements for acting were suddenly different, and I knew I wasn't trained. Lupita Tovar.
More recently, a new technology has appeared, known as motion capture animation. All of the movements made by the actors are translated onto computer-generated images. 3D and motion capture animation could be the future of the film industry. With Avatar as the highest-grossing film of all time, it certainly seems possible. The revolution of 3D movies mirrors in many ways the revolution of the talkies in the 1920s.
Starting with early motion capture 3D films, pioneers such as Polar Express or The Jazz Singer, and ending with the grand product, Avatar or Lights of New York. It is history repeating itself.